Trump said, "I'm pissed off." Okay, he said, "I'm pissed off because Putin doesn't want to recognize Zelensky as a legitimate leader." Apparently, Putin is saying because there was a coup, and then also they haven't had elections. But I can understand why they haven't had elections because there's a war going on, so their constitution doesn't allow. But this is all rhetoric, because even Trump said that Putin and me, we're friends, we know each other. He said, "Don't worry, my anger will dissipate soon, so long as he does what I want." So in other words, once again, this is theater for TV. It seems that all Russia is sandbagging this war because they're making money and they have no reason not to. The U.S. is putting in a half-assed effort to bring a ceasefire. They don't really want to do that. They want to keep selling weapons to Ukraine. But what's for sure is that Ukraine will not be attacking Russia anytime soon. They're just on the back. They're just collecting money for weapons. What do you think, Kunle? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's two confused schools of thought in America on what Trump is doing. There's
Yeah.
on one side where people are saying, oh, Trump is naive, because the facts are the same. The facts are that once Trump stopped giving Zelensky the weapons and the Starlinks and all of that, there was a decisive shift in advantage of Russia. Once Trump restored Starlinks, it doesn't matter anymore. The advantage is permanent.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it. So some people are saying, oh, Trump, you are being so naive because you didn't know that you'd lose a strategic advantage personally. And the other people are saying, look, Trump is just pretending that he wasn't really on their side, but really he's on Putin's side, and he doesn't really care that Putin has a permanent advantage. And all this sort of being angry is just pretend. Because really, it's game over. It's game over.
And here's another head from the news. I think Russia today was mentioned that Russia and America will meet on even agreement with minerals in Russia. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
Remember what I said, that the U.S. is going to become de facto BRICS. That's trade. This is the media isn't focusing on this because it's a Western media that they love Biden and they love the liberals and the Democrats. But think about it. From giving weapons to Ukraine to attack Ukraine, now Putin and Trump are about to meet. This is a business deal. It's about doing business with Russia because Russia has key minerals, and also supposedly Ukraine does. So Trump, I'm angry with Putin. Yeah, you're still angry. You just have a beer and curse each other out and laugh while you count your money. What do you think, Kunle? Then we'll go to Afalabi.
Yeah, the Democrats are just being quiet because they're extremely quiet on his foreign policy in Palestine. They're being fake. They're not against the Republicans. They're against Donald Trump. Trump and the Republicans are not the same thing. If Trump was to leave the Republican Party, that Republican Party would not win the election.
And I'm not going to be I'm a Trump fan, but let me not say this is to praise Trump. But if the Democrats hate Trump so much, and even the Republicans, and they want to work with the Republicans, is because he spoiled their agenda, the little dirt they wanted to do. Now we can focus on the dirt that Trump is doing, but the reason they hate Trump is not because he's a bad person, it's because he's bad for their personal business, which was looting the world. They funded the bombing of Palestine, which killed 100,000 kids. They funded a stupid little war against Russia, which backfired to make money. They got rid of Gaddafi and destroyed Africa. They've bombed Afghanistan. They've caused so much trouble. And now that Trump has come in, those things are cooling down. Trump is a businessman. That's why they hate Trump. What do you think, Afolabi? Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it's a personal vendetta. It's nothing to do with the Republicans. And basically, talking about the issue of the anger of Donald Trump, I think, like you rightly mentioned, is just theatrics. I don't see it doesn't hold any water, because if Trump follows through on his threat of imposing sanctions, secondary sanctions, he called it secondary sanctions. That is to say, people that are doing business with Russia would then be sanctioned. Most of the people doing business with Russia, people that buy Russia's oil, are America's business allies.
India and China.
India and China. So how would he want to do that? So I think it's just, he can't follow through on that threat. What I feel is that there will be a middle ground as they continue to negotiate. They just want Russia to have assurances that peace talks and negotiations is the way to go.
And also, U.S. has some leverage before we go to our site.
I think that's exactly what it's trying to do.
I want to add one point. And now you see Russia has to do business with America. Russia's meaning, because Russia has minerals, and they also want American citizens to be buying their minerals. Russia wants to maximize their exports. So they want to work with the U.S. because they can't just work with African countries and with Europe. They want, especially with Europe, which is being antagonistic towards Russia. Russia has minerals that America needs.
And
And so that's why
they're already discussing about these minerals.
yeah, so it just goes to show you, no matter what Trump says, he can be pissed off at Putin, but de facto, USA is becoming a BRICS nation, which just means that even though they're not listed on BRICS, they're doing trade with BRICS countries. What are your thoughts, Saeed? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I want to continue from where Mr. Falabi stopped. Like, all what Trump is doing right now, I think it's part of his negotiating tactics and trying to make sure that Putin and Russia they come to the table and make sure where they find some kind of middle ground to negotiate and make sure everything goes well and peace is restored in Ukraine. So I think all this is just part of negotiating tactics. Where all this tariff I think they are just both of the sides. They are just flexing their muscles, like, okay, we
yeah.
want this, we want that. So I think that's just what's going on.
The funny thing about the tariff is that India gets its oil from Russia.
Yeah,
and then the Western
Even
Europe
China,
now
even
buys
China.
its oil from India.
Yeah,
India is
yeah.
just the middleman. So when you're putting tariffs on India,
yeah, but
most of their oil is from Russia. So when you're putting so when you're putting tariffs on India, you're actually putting tariffs on Western Europe. They're the ones that suffer.
Yeah, and this is the thing. And Western Europe needs to be very careful, because if the US turns their back on Western Europe, right, then then Trump will be like, I don't care that Western Europe has. So Western Europe needs to be very careful. If they keep on armoring themselves like this, Putin may just talk to Trump and say, hey, your boys are getting disrespectful with me. Put some tariffs on them too. The world is changing.
India doesn't have oil. That's the irony. India doesn't actually have oil. They're buying all their oil from Russia.
Yes, they're buying all that. But the irony is that
they're giving it to and then sending it on for a
but
profit.
You know what?
But Trump is saying he'll do secondary. So if he did secondary, he would have to put tariffs on India. Trust me, that would never happen. Because
it's just going to punish. It's just going to punish Western Europe. That's all.
Yeah,
it's not. India are going to be bothered.
Of
course. Not going to bother India. India is 1.2 billion people.
I don't think it's going to do that. I don't think it's going
Russia is 300 million people. You know, I mean,
OPEC to my argument I've been having with Kool-Aid. Europe right now is in no position to try to arm themselves. They have too many problems.
They have actually increased their armament. They have a 4-year plan.
Yeah, I know, but they're doing that, but it's just another fatal mistake.
4-year plan.
It's another fatal mistake by them. The European, that's why I said the Europeans are stupid. They got themselves into World War I and World War II, in which they lost millions of people. It seems like the Western Europeans are the dumbest people on earth.
They need them about 10 years. In 10 years' time, they'll arm. Let me tell you something about Europe. Germany suffered reparations.
We're not going to go deep into this, but in order to win war, you have to have resources. If Europe is going to armor, that means Russia and China and Korea will armor too. And you can't compete with who wins a war is based on who has the most manufacturing. So if Europe does that, they're going to get into a manufacturing war with Russia and China and Korea and South Africa. They can't win.
Yeah. What I'm saying is Europe does have resources and manufacturing industry. They do have that capability, but it will take 10 years. Let me give you an example.
They've shown the numbers. Russia creates 55,000 bombs a day. Europe's capacity now cannot create 30,000 in a year. So even if they up their capacity, they will be out manufactured by the East, and they're going to lose World War III. That's my point. If Europe starts World War III, in 40 years from now, Europe will be the slaves. History works in circles. The new phase of 400
million people. It will take them about 10 years
and here's the thing.
To get their manufacturing onto
Europe is not divided. Hungary and Turkey make up most of their population, and they will also join Russia and China. Once you take away Hungary and Turkey, all you have left is France and Germany and Great Britain.
Britain is 50 million. Germany is 80. Britain, Germany, Spain, and France, all of them have over 50
but when you add China and Russia together, when you add China and Russia together, you have 1.5 billion. Do your math. China and Russia, and India are working together. They have 2 billion people. Kool-Aid, stop this argument because it's beginning to make it look like you don't understand.
America only has 300 million people, but they're still militarily comparable. It's not just the numbers. It's also the technological ability. America would always side Western Europe in the World War.
Europe doesn't even have, they don't have hypersonic missiles. They can't beat Iran. Kool-Aid, unless you're smoking crack, you can't beat Iran and India and China and Russia and Korea together.
Western Europe can't compete. I agree with that. But in 10 years' time,
they don't have the resources.
They just need to take them several years to get on the World War.
Why do you think
Germany almost took out Russia and Britain alone Even though they lost all the remember before Germany was
I don't
they
think
had no army. They rearmed
I
and
don't think Europe, I don't think Europe,
inside
I
of
don't
2
think
years
European
of
countries can
warfare.
match them.
Germany have the ability alone to do that.
I'll have to go with
Britain,
Mr.
France, and
Mustafa on
Spain.
this one.
Anything can happen.
Okay, so now we're not going to go
I'll
down
have
that
to
road.
go with Mr.
You're
Mustafa on
absolutely
this one.
delusional.
I doubt it because
Well,
the
you have to look at
population
history.
alone.
If you look at history, it doesn't matter who you go with. History doesn't agree with either of you.
So history agrees with
Germany
me.
has the ability.
History
And
agrees
it
with
showed,
me.
even when Germany's army was limited and punished, they still within 10 years got enough to get within 5 miles of Russia,
Let
of
me tell you the
Moscow.
first principle of war.
Germany alone.
History agrees with me. The first principle of war is that if you don't have raw resources and manufacturing capability, you can't win.
There is raw resources in Western Europe. There is a manufacturing industry in Western Europe. It's not on the war footing. It will take 5 to 10 years to get on that. In 5 to 10 years, it will be a different.
You're stating falsities.
Europe does
not have the raw
I think even if they have all these things, Mr. Kule, there is still no way they can match.
They have a population of 400
Russia
million
and
people.
China.
They have the most. Their technology is more advanced than
400 million
Russia.
versus
They have the potential.
You can't compare
They
that
have the
to
potential to be a
1.5
significant
billion
force
population.
as a unified force in Western Europe. Not now, but in 5 to 10 years. Yes, if they do that, they can.
They don't have their colonies in Europe. They don't have the uranium from Mali and all those things, which Russia and China are taking. You're not going to talk anymore because you're done. But you're delusional when it comes to that. What are your thoughts on that, Afolabi?
You can't say I'm delusional and not let me speak back.
You've spoken.
You've already broken. You don't agree with what I'm saying.
You've said your part. You have nothing more to say about
this. On the numbers, Mr. Kule, the numbers is not backing up.
I want to ask you a question. Can Europe match Russia, China, and Korea and all these BRICS nations when it comes to the capability to build weapons?
Even Russia alone, they can't match Russia alone.
No,
because
I don't want to hear
you see, if you look at Russia, the old Soviet Union, if you look at the old Soviet Union, look at the resources they have. Most of those resources are strategically still located in Russia, and they have the technology to continue to harness these resources. Yeah. And if you look at their capabilities vis-a-vis Europe, Europe is leveraging on what comes from Africa. Russia doesn't need Africa. So it will be very uneven to compare Europe to Russia, not to even talk of bringing in China. And then China brings in the population aspect. I don't see where the comparison is. Maybe they could catch up.
If you combine Russia
and those two countries are now going to unite with Britain, that's a lot of force. You can't just
don't even argue. This is something that a 5-year-old child would know.
Okay, 5-year-old child would say that because you're ignoring history. Look at the Napoleonic Wars. Look at World War I. Look at World War II. Look at what Western Europe nearly did to Russia, even when it was disjointed.
Mute this guy. Now, Saeed, talk.
African, European Union countries. You can't match them. I'm not even defending maybe Russia alone, but combining Russia and China together against Europe, that's cheat for me though. They are going to win. There's nothing European countries can do.
Europe can't even.
Immigrants you can't win a war. You can't win a war without resources. If you put the facts on that right now, none of them can cope with Russia. There are a lot of untapped resources, and Russia has the technology.
Yeah, I'm even saying Russia and China combining those two against Europe.
Not only China, side also Korea and Iran.
China is 20% of world population. China has human beings. They are 20% of world population.
They'll finish Europe. Europe can't even heat themselves. The U.S., let me tell you something. The U.S., this is a fact, Afolabi. The U.S. destroyed the pipeline from Russia to Germany, Nord Stream, which was giving Germany natural gas. Germany has no natural gas, which is why they have to move their factories to the U.S. Germany cannot rebuild their army. Continue, Afolabi. Yeah.
So basically, and if you look at it now, if you look at all the automobile manufacturing countries in Europe, they are all suffering recession. It's obvious why. Because there's no money anywhere to gamble with, especially when it comes to war. So I don't know why that should even come in.
Another aspect.
Take him off of mute. Take him off of mute.
A lot of them.
So let's go back.
European countries don't have that kind of money to waste on wars.
Afab, you can take Kule off of mute. So now let's go back to our story. So what we're talking about initially is that Trump is saying he's mad at Putin. But meanwhile, Russia and the U.S. are meeting about minerals. You see what I'm saying? So it goes to show you that under the Trump regime, we have a lot of deals going around, a lot of fighting between U.S. and South Africa, but there's not violence. The only place where there's violence right now is in Palestine, which we'll talk about on another day. Any other thoughts you have about this, Saeed, about the about also let's look at the fact that Trump is saying that he's angry at Putin because Putin doesn't want to recognize Zelensky. But 4 weeks ago, Trump called Zelensky a dictator as well. What do you think about
of course, is that not hypocritical?
yeah.
Yeah, like I said, goes back to what I said earlier. I think this is just part of negotiation tactics and everybody throwing tantrums and whatever. You know, just
Yeah.
this. I think right time just flex your muscles and stuff. So
All
I
this
think
is
nothing's
business.
gonna happen.
All,
Everybody's still gonna come to the table and negotiate and make sure the war stops in Ukraine and all that stuff. So I don't think all this is just showing muscles. Like I told you, I'm
yeah.
going to whoop
WWE.
your
What are
ass.
your thoughts, Kule, about this topic? Yeah. Yeah.
About the topic on Zelensky and the rare
Yeah. Yeah.
minerals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, what's going on there is that Trump is trying to get his hands on Ukrainian rare earth minerals. He doesn't want to. He doesn't mind. He doesn't feel like he needs to deal with Zelensky. He feels that Russia can simply. His problem is that the problem is that he's not on a good terms with Zelensky, but he has Zelensky at the throat. I don't really see. I don't really see how Russia are going to have any problems getting everything and anything they want from the Ukraine because they've taken the advantage away from America. I think America are going to be the big losers in Ukraine because Russia can just keep pushing. There's nothing to stop Russia from pushing now. Ukraine's army.
No, Russia. I don't think Russia is going to.
So
why
does Russia need to worry about doing any deals with Ukraine now? They can take whatever they want.
I have a friend who lives in. I have a friend.
Is the big person now. Okay,
Yeah.
continue.
Also, I have a friend who lives in Russia. He says that every day Ukrainian drones hit buildings in Moscow, so people have to stay in the ground. So Russia will also have to negotiate with Ukraine because they don't want to have terrorism in their country because they're right by their border too. So they don't want terrorism because there's a lot of terrorism in Russia now. They're killing Russian people. They don't talk about it on the news, but it's small level like Ukrainians because there's a lot of Ukrainians in Russia. What do you think, Falabi?
Yeah, I agree with you. And this drone thing has been one of their most effective strategies during the war. And if you are targeting the population and vulnerable unarmed people, that won't be nice. And I think this is one of the reasons why Putin is a bit reluctant. He doesn't want any semblance of the Minsk II agreement in any shape or form. That is why
they rebuild their army.
Yes, rebuild their army. And if you look at Russia too, they appear to have the advantage, but they've lost a lot of men. They are short on manpower. So
and the people are not happy. Russians are not happy.
They are not happy. So he doesn't want any window of rearmament for Zelensky. So he's been very, very frank. He doesn't want.
And also, he wants to do business with America. So he has to meet because he's also talking about selling American minerals, selling Russian minerals to America, export. So even though Putin could take over all of Ukraine, he won't do it unless there's something to gain from it. And there's really nothing to gain from it.
One thing Trump needs to understand is that
he can gain the rare earth minerals.
Yeah, but the problem is that he'll gain if he takes all of Ukraine, then there'll be more world condemnation against him.
He doesn't need to take the whole of Ukraine, just the rare earth minerals areas that have those resources.
Yeah, but they already have most of those from the Donbass. They already have those. But Ukraine still has the other one. Yeah.
That's all they need.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Falabi? Sorry, then we'll go to
what I was trying to say is that Putin is just as pissed off with Zelensky as Trump is with Putin. Because he's a Western, more or less like a Western installed president of Ukraine. So if he says that he's not legitimate, he knows what he's talking about. The West has always supported him under a democratic rule. So he doesn't want to negotiate directly with Zelensky. So that's the way he feels too. If you look at it from his own side too. So whatever is going
on. And also this war is disrupting Russia's economy. They're ready to move beyond this shit.
It is.
I think that's another very good context Mr. Falabi just gave now concerning the history concerning their presidency in Ukraine. You know, I think if you check, I think it is 2014 or something that they killed one.
Yeah, 2014.
Yeah, so I think we can draw the context from there that maybe that is the reason why Putin was even actually saying that I don't want to recognize this guy as a legitimate president or something. So
when Zelensky came in office, he said that he was going to make peace with the Donbass and peace with Russia. But then the neo-Nazis in Ukraine said we will kill you. That's when he changed his view and attacked Russia and started talking bad about Russia because he didn't want to get killed. What are your thoughts, Kunle? Yeah.
Well, I think where Trump is interested and his distraction, I think is he's going to give Putin whatever he wants in Ukraine. I think his attention is drawn to this Greenland